The melody of compassion. God's teachings on a good life, in the profound silence of the soul, where the greatest questions of life echo without words. There is a universal yearning that connects us all, the desire to live a good life. It is not merely a wish to exist, but a deep impulse to live a life of meaning, to become a person of kindness, to leave a positive, however small, imprint on the vast tapestry of humanity. We long for inner peace, for genuine connection with others, and for the feeling that our life has not been just a sequence of random days. But the path to achieving this is often shrouded in fog and fraught with challenges. We live in a complex world where opposing voices clamor for our attention. On one hand, the world praises assertiveness, ambition, and self-interest. On the other, our conscience whispers of compassion, sacrifice, and altruism. We are torn between the ego and the community, between fear and love. Every day, we face countless choices, and each choice feels like a test. We often feel we are failing. We speak a careless word to a loved one. We judge a stranger. We see injustice and turn away in helplessness. We drown in envy or self-satisfaction. In the end, when we look back, we often see an imperfect portrait, filled with flawed strokes and patches of regret. It is in this confusion, in the earnest cry of a heart wanting to find the right way, that we can listen for another voice, not the noise of the bustling world, but a deep resonance within our consciousness, a warmth that spreads from the core of our being. It is the teaching of God, not as a dry set of laws carved in stone, but as a river of grace and wisdom that flows through the ages, inviting us to step into a more complete life. This teaching does not begin with a condemnation of our shortcomings, but with a profound understanding of the human condition. It does not demand immediate perfection, but rather the orientation of the heart. It is not a to-do list, but an invitation to become. This essay is a journey to explore those profound teachings, to understand what it truly means to live well and treat others well in the light of divine wisdom. Together, we will delve into the nature of goodness, discover the power of forgiveness, learn to love our neighbor and even our enemy, and find a way to transform the small daily actions into a great symphony of compassion. This is not a formula, but a map for the soul, a compass for navigating the complex yet beautiful journey of human life. Chapter 1. The Foundation of Goodness, the Orientation of the Heart and Knee. First and most fundamental question on this journey is, what is goodness? For centuries, humanity has tried to define it. We create laws, moral codes, social norms. We believe that if we adhere to these rules, do not steal, do not lie, do not harm others, we will become good people. These rules certainly have their value. They are protective barriers that keep society from descending into chaos. But the teachings of God tell us that true goodness does not lie in adherence to external rules, but stems from a much deeper place, the orientation of the heart. A person can obey every law, yet have a heart filled with judgment, contempt, and bitterness. A person can give to charity not out of compassion, but for the desire for social recognition. The external act may appear good, but the inner root is decayed. God does not look at the action alone. He looks at the motive, the intention, the place from which the action was born. A small act of kindness that springs from a pure, loving heart is more precious than a great gift given with calculation. So how do we orient our hearts? Imagine your heart as a garden. This garden has the potential to cultivate the most beautiful flowers of compassion, patience, and joy, but it can also be overrun by the weeds of selfishness, anger, and fear. To be a good person is not to pretend that the weeds do not exist. It is the daily, persistent work of a gardener. When a negative thought arises, a judgment, a spark of envy, do not punish yourself. Self-punishment is like pouring poison on your own garden. Instead, gently acknowledge it. This is the weed of envy. It has grown because I am feeling insecure. This awareness, without judgment, is like sunlight. It allows you to see the weed clearly. Then gently pull it out by replacing it. Instead of focusing on another's success, practice gratitude for what you have. Instead of judging a stranger, silently wish them well. Pray for their peace. This is a slow and subtle process. It is not a violent war against the darkness within you, but a conscious choice to nurture the light. Every time you choose patience over anger, empathy over judgment, forgiveness over resentment, you are watering the flowers in your garden. Over time, these flowers will grow stronger, and the weeds will have less space and light to thrive. True goodness is not the absence of negative thoughts or feelings. It is the refusal to be controlled by them. It is the realization that you are greater than the fleeting storms of your emotions. You are the gardener, not the weeds. Your heart can be a battlefield, but it can also be a sanctuary. The choice is yours in every single moment. To orient your heart toward love, compassion, and truth is the most important work of your life. All other good deeds will naturally spring forth from a heart that has been carefully tended. Chapter 2. The Inner Starting Point. Loving and forgiving yourself. We are often taught that we must love others, but we forget a fundamental and essential truth. We cannot give what we do not have. A dry well cannot quench anyone's thirst. Similarly, a heart devoid of self-love and self-forgiveness cannot truly love and forgive others. God's teaching, love your neighbor as yourself, implies a profound prerequisite. The measure of our ability to love others is directly linked to our ability to love ourselves. This is not a call for selfishness or narcissism, but a recognition of a deep psychological and spiritual reality. Many of us live with a harsh inner critic. This voice in our head is relentless, constantly replaying our mistakes, highlighting our flaws, and comparing us unfavorably to others. It holds us to a standard of perfection we would never dream of imposing on a friend. This inner critic whispers that we are not smart enough, not worthy enough, not good enough. It is the source of shame, guilt, and a pervasive sense of inadequacy. How can we possibly be a source of grace and compassion for the world when we are at war with ourselves? The path to healing begins with recognizing this inner critic for what it is, a mechanism of fear. The ego creates this voice believing that by punishing you, it can prevent future mistakes and protect you from the judgment of others. But this is a fallacy. Shame does not inspire growth. It paralyzes it. It is love that transforms. To love yourself is to begin to offer the same grace to yourself that you would offer to a beloved friend. When you make a mistake, instead of berating yourself, you can learn to pause and say, "That was a mistake. I will learn from it. But this mistake does not define my worth." To love yourself is to care for your body with nutritious food and rest, to care for your mind by protecting it from negativity, and to care for your soul by giving it moments of silence and beauty. Even more powerful is the act of self-forgiveness. Many carry the heavy burden of past failures for years, even decades. A thoughtless word spoken in youth, a selfish decision made in a moment of weakness. These memories can haunt us, making us feel permanently stained. But God's forgiveness is infinite and instantaneous. The moment you turn back to the light, you are bathed in it. The only thing blocking that forgiveness from reaching your heart is your own refusal to forgive yourself. The practice of self-forgiveness is an act of profound humility. It is acknowledging your imperfection and accepting your humanity. Look back at the person you were when you made that mistake. See them with compassion. Understand the ignorance, the pain, or the fear that drove their actions. They were doing the best they could with the awareness they had at the time. Then, with the wisdom you have now, speak to that past self. Say, "I understand. I forgive you. You are released from this burden." This is not about letting yourself off the hook or pretending your actions had no consequences. On the contrary, true self-forgiveness is what gives you the strength to take responsibility and make amends where possible. A person mired in self-hatred is too focused on their own pain to effectively heal the pain they may have caused others. But a person who has embraced their own imperfections with grace can approach others with genuine humility and a desire to repair harm. Laying down the burden of self-condemnation is the first step in filling your own well. When your heart is filled with self-acceptance and grace, the love naturally overflows to everyone you meet. You begin to see others not as competitors or judges, but as fellow struggling, imperfect, and beautiful human beings, just like you. Chapter 3. The Immediate Circle. The Practice of Loving Your Neighbor Once. The foundation of self-love is laid. The divine instruction to love your neighbor becomes a natural and joyful expression, rather than an arduous duty. But who is our neighbor? In the famous parable of the Good Samaritan, Jesus radically expanded this definition. The neighbor is not just the person who lives next door, or someone from our own tribe, religion, or community. The neighbor is any person who crosses our path, especially one who is in need. Loving our neighbor is the central practice of a good life. It is where the spiritual becomes practical, where faith takes form in action. This love, known as agape in theological terms, is not a sentimental feeling but a conscious, willed act of benevolence and goodwill. It is the commitment to seek the highest good for another person, regardless of our personal feelings about them. How does this love manifest in our daily lives? It is often not in grand, heroic gestures, but in 1,000 small, consistent acts of kindness and attention. It begins with seeing. In our busy, goal-oriented lives, we often look at people without truly seeing them. We see the cashier as a function, the coworker as a role, the family member as a familiar fixture. To love your neighbor is to see the person behind the function. It is to look them in the eye, to acknowledge their humanity, to recognize that they too have a rich, complex inner world, filled with their own hopes, fears, and struggles. A genuine smile, a word of thanks that is truly meant, the simple act of putting down your phone and giving someone your undivided attention, these are profound acts of seeing. It continues with listening. One of the greatest gifts you can give another person is the gift of being heard. This is not the passive listening we do while waiting for our turn to speak. It is active, compassionate listening. It is setting aside your own agenda, your desire to fix their problems or offer advice, and simply creating a safe space for them to express themselves. It is listening with your heart to the emotions behind their words. When you listen to someone in this way, you are telling them, you matter. Your story matters. In a world where so many feel invisible and unheard, this is a powerful act of love. It is expressed through empathy. Empathy is the ability to feel with someone, to try to understand the world from their perspective. It is the bridge that connects one human heart to another. It requires us to suspend our own judgment. When a friend is grieving, empathy is not saying, I know how you feel, but sitting with them in their silence and sorrow. When someone expresses an opinion we disagree with, empathy is trying to understand the life experiences and fears that led them to that conclusion, even if we still disagree. Empathy dissolves the barriers of us and them and reminds us of our shared human condition. It is solidified in action. Compassion without action can remain a sterile sentiment. To love your neighbor is to be moved to alleviate their suffering in tangible ways. This does not mean you must solve all their problems. It can be as simple as making a meal for a family with a new baby, offering to run an errand for an elderly neighbor, or donating to a cause that helps those in need. It is about asking the question, what does this person need right now, and how can I help? It is about being God's hands and feet in the world, responding to the practical needs of those around you with generosity and a willing spirit. Loving your neighbor is a daily practice, not a one-time achievement. It is a muscle that grows stronger with use. Every day offers countless opportunities to choose kindness over indifference, connection over isolation, and generosity over selfishness. This is the heart of living a good life. It is in the loving service of our neighbor that we find our deepest joy and our truest purpose. Chapter 4. The Highest Summit. The Challenge of Loving Your Enemy. If loving our neighbor is the heart of a good life, then loving our enemy is its highest and most challenging summit. For the ego, this command feels unnatural, even impossible. Our instincts for survival and justice scream for retribution. When someone hurts us, betrays us, or stands for everything we oppose, the natural human reaction is to harbor resentment, anger, and even hatred. To be asked to love this person feels like a betrayal of ourselves, and yet, this teaching lies at the core of the divine message. It is what separates a worldly ethic of reciprocity from a transcendent ethic of grace. To understand it, we must first clarify what loving your enemy does and does not mean. It does not mean you must condone their harmful actions. Justice is a crucial component of a moral world. Loving your enemy does not mean you allow them to continue causing harm to you or others. Setting firm boundaries, seeking justice through legal and ethical means, and protecting the vulnerable are also acts of love for the community and for righteousness. It does not mean you must feel a warm, sentimental affection for them. You are not required to like them, to become their friend, or to trust them. The love spoken of here is not an emotion, but a willed orientation of the soul. It does not mean you must suppress your righteous anger. Anger at injustice can be a sacred and powerful motivator for change. The key is to ensure this anger does not curdle into hatred, which dehumanizes the other person and poisons your own spirit. So, what does it mean? It means refusing to dehumanize them. It is the conscious choice to see the human being behind the monstrous act or ideology. It is to remember that they too are one of God's children, however lost, broken, or twisted by pain and ignorance they may be. Cruelty is often the cry of a soul in profound agony. Hurt people hurt people. This realization does not excuse their behavior, but it can create a tiny crack in the wall of our hatred, allowing a sliver of compassion to enter. It means releasing the poison of resentment. Resentment, bitterness, and the desire for revenge are heavy chains that bind you to the person who hurt you. They keep you trapped in the past, endlessly replaying the injury in your mind. Hating your enemy is like drinking poison and hoping they will die. Forgiving your enemy, which is the practical expression of loving them, is not primarily a gift to them. It is a gift of freedom to yourself. It is the act of cutting those chains and choosing to walk forward into the light, unburdened. It means praying for their awakening. This may be the most radical practice of all. In the quiet of your own heart, to wish for the healing of the person who caused you pain, to pray that they may be freed from the darkness that drives them, that they may find peace, that they may awaken to the truth of their own actions, is a transformative act. It aligns your will with God's will, which is the redemption and healing of all souls, not their condemnation. It breaks the cycle of hatred. Hatred begets only more hatred. Only a force as powerful and transcendent as love can absorb the blow of injustice and refuse to return it in kind, thereby ending the destructive cycle. This is the ultimate test of spiritual maturity. It is easy to love those who are kind to us. It requires no great effort. But to extend grace and a refusal to hate towards those who have wronged you is to participate directly in the divine work of redemption. Do not expect to master this overnight. Start small. Think of someone who has slightly annoyed or wronged you. Practice seeing the struggling human behind their actions. In your heart, silently wish them well. May you be happy. May you be at peace. Feel how this small internal shift begins to liberate you. This is the training ground. By practicing with the small enemies, you build the spiritual muscle needed for the greater challenges. In learning to love your enemy, you discover a peace that the world cannot give and a strength that cannot be broken. Chapter 7. Overcoming the inner shadows. Pride, envy, and anger. The path to a good life is not only about cultivating virtues, but also about courageously facing and transforming our inner shadows. These are the powerful primal energies that, when left unchecked, can derail our best intentions and cause immense suffering to ourselves and others. Among the most potent of these are pride, envy, and anger. A divine approach does not teach us to violently repress these emotions, an act that often gives them more power, but to understand them, to hold them in compassion, and to transmute their energy into something constructive. Pride, Kyun-gao, is often called the root of all other failings because it is the ultimate act of separation. It is the voice of the ego declaring, "I am better than you." It builds walls between people. Pride is different from healthy self-respect. It is a comparative and competitive sense of self that needs to feel superior to feel secure. It manifests as arrogance, boastfulness, and a refusal to admit fault. It closes us off from learning and from genuine connection. The antidote to pride is, as we have seen, humility. But it is also the practice of celebrating others. When you feel the sting of pride, make a conscious effort to find something to genuinely admire and praise in another person. Actively look for the light in them. This practice dissolves the illusion of separation and replaces it with a sense of shared humanity. Envy, Gan-ti, is the shadow sister of pride. It is the pain we feel at the good fortune of others. It arises from a scarcity mindset, the belief that there is a limited amount of goodness in the world, and if someone else has it, there is less for us. Envy is a joyless state of being. It cannot appreciate beauty or success if it is not its own. It whispers poison into our hearts, turning admiration into resentment. The most powerful antidote to envy is gratitude for what we have, as it shifts our focus from scarcity to abundance. But an even more profound practice is the cultivation of sympathetic joy, mudita in Buddhist terms. This is the discipline of learning to feel genuine happiness for the success and happiness of others. When a friend shares good news, instead of letting the shadow of envy arise, lean into the joy. Celebrate with them wholeheartedly. Their joy does not diminish yours. It adds to the total sum of happiness in the world. To share in another's joy is a profound act of love that liberates you from the prison of comparison. Anger, Jiandu, is perhaps the most fiery and misunderstood of the inner shadows. Anger itself is not necessarily negative. It is a natural human emotion, often a healthy response to injustice, boundary violations, or threats. This righteous anger can be a powerful fuel for positive change, as discussed in the context of justice. The danger lies in what happens when anger is not processed wisely. When it festers, it turns into bitterness and resentment. When it explodes uncontrollably, it becomes destructive rage. When it is turned inward, it becomes depression. The divine teaching on anger is not to suppress it, but to attend to it with wisdom. When you feel anger rising, the first step is to pause. Do not react immediately. Create a space between the stimulus and your response. In that space, you can take a deep breath and acknowledge the feeling without judgment. Anger is present in me. The second step is to investigate its roots. What is underneath the anger? Often it is a more vulnerable feeling, like hurt, fear, or sadness. Are you angry because your coworker criticized your work? Or are you hurt because you feel unappreciated? Are you angry at the driver who cut you off? Or are you afraid because it was a near accident? By understanding the root, you can address the real issue. Finally, the third step is to find a constructive channel for the energy. This could mean having a calm, assertive conversation about your hurt feelings. It could mean engaging in physical exercise to release the pent-up energy. It could mean channeling that fire into creative work or activism. By meeting our inner shadows not with condemnation but with compassionate awareness, we learn to disarm them. We see them not as monstrous enemies to be slain, but as wounded parts of ourselves that need healing and attention. This gentle, persistent inner work transforms these sources of suffering into opportunities for profound spiritual growth and a deeper, more authentic goodness. Chapter 8. The Eternal Wellspring, Connecting to the Divine Source. The journey described in these pages is not easy. It requires constant effort, patience, and a well of emotional and spiritual strength. To love ourselves when we feel flawed, to love our neighbors when they are difficult, to love our enemies when they have hurt us, to fight for justice in a wearying world. If we try to do all this relying solely on our own finite willpower, we will inevitably burn out. Our well will run dry. This is the final and most crucial teaching. You are not meant to be the source of this infinite love. You are meant to be a conduit for it. Imagine you are a simple garden hose. If the hose tries to generate its own water, it will fail. Its purpose is not to create water, but to connect to the faucet, the main source, and allow the water to flow through it to nourish the garden. In the same way, you are not meant to generate divine love from your own limited ego. Your purpose is to connect to the infinite, ever-flowing source of divine love, to God, and allow that love to flow through you into the world. This is the secret that turns a life of moral striving into a life of grace-filled service. It replaces the strain of effort with the joy of surrender. How then do we connect to this divine wellspring? This is the role of spiritual practice. The methods are many, but the intention is singular, to quiet the noisy ego and open the heart to a reality greater than itself. Find stillness in prayer or meditation. The names and techniques may vary, but the essence is the same. Set aside time each day, even just a few minutes, to be still. Turn off the distractions, close your eyes, release your worries, your plans, your resentments. In this silence, you are not trying to achieve anything. You are simply emptying your cup. And in that emptiness, you can make a simple, heartfelt request. God, fill me. Fill me with your love, your peace, your strength. Let me be an instrument for your will. This practice creates an open channel for grace to enter your life. Cultivate a spirit of gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forms of prayer. It actively shifts your consciousness from what is wrong to what is right, from what is lacking to what is abundant. By consciously thanking God for the simple gifts, the air you breathe, the food you eat, the beauty of a sunrise, the kindness of a stranger, you attune your heart to the frequency of love and make it a more receptive vessel. Connect through nature and beauty. God's presence is woven into the fabric of creation. Go for a walk in the woods. Sit by the ocean and listen to the waves. Gaze up at the night sky. In the presence of such immense ordered beauty, our own small worries shrink. We feel a sense of connection to the life force that animates all things. This is a direct infusion of divine energy. Similarly, beauty created by human hands, a piece of music that elevates the soul, a work of art that captures a profound truth, poetry that speaks to the heart, can serve as a powerful bridge to the sacred. Read sacred texts and wisdom literature. Immerse yourself in the words of the saints, sages, and mystics who have walked this path before you. Their stories and insights can serve as a guide, a comfort, and an inspiration. They remind you that you are not alone on this journey and that the challenges you face are part of the timeless human quest for goodness and God. You must return to this wellspring daily. You cannot give what you do not have. The act of being a good person is ultimately not an act of willpower alone. It is an act of spiritual receptivity. Let God fill you, and you will find that the love you give to others does not deplete you, but energizes you. Because it is not your limited love you are giving, but an infinite love flowing through you. This is the secret to a life of sustainable goodness. You are not alone in this work. God is with you, and God is in you. Your greatest act of goodness is simply to allow God to love the world through you. Conclusion: a journey, not a destination. We began with the universal human question of how to be good in a complicated world. The divine answer, as we have explored, is not a rigid set of rules or a demand for impossible perfection. Instead, it is a gentle, profound invitation to embark on an inner journey, a journey of orienting the heart. It is a path that begins not with judging others, but with extending compassion and forgiveness to ourselves. From that foundation of inner grace, we learn to truly see and love our neighbor, not just in grand gestures, but in the small, sacred moments of daily life. It challenges us to climb to the highest summit of love, where we find the strength to release resentment and wish well even to those who have harmed us, freeing ourselves in the process. This journey calls us to expand our circle of compassion beyond our personal lives, to engage with the world's suffering, and to work for justice not with hatred, but with a fierce and courageous love. It teaches us the quiet, resilient strength of humility, which opens us to growth and genuine connection. It guides us in facing our inner shadows, pride, envy, anger, not with fear, but with wise and compassionate awareness, transforming them from sources of pain into catalysts for growth. And finally, it reveals the ultimate secret, that we cannot do this alone. We are not the source of goodness, but a channel for it. By connecting daily to the divine wellspring through prayer, gratitude, and stillness, we allow an infinite love to flow through us, turning our efforts from a wearying struggle into a joyful service. To live a good life, then, is not to arrive at a destination called perfection. There is no final exam, no point at which we can declare ourselves good and be done. It is a lifelong process, a continuous practice. It is about the direction we are facing. It is about trying, failing, forgiving ourselves, and trying again, with a little more wisdom and a little more love each time. It is a journey of 1,000 small choices, made every day, that determine the character of our soul and the legacy we leave behind. Let your desire for goodness be the prayer that guides your every step. Do not be afraid of your imperfections. They are part of your humanity. Simply begin. Begin now in this very moment. Take one small step. Offer one kind thought. Forgive one old hurt. Open your heart to be a conduit for a love that is larger than you, but that wishes to express itself through you. This is the work you were created for. It is the most beautiful, most challenging, and most rewarding journey a human soul can ever undertake.